This is the 100th episode of the Maverick Paradox Podcast. To mark the occasion, this is the first Alone with Judith episode that we've had in a very long time. In this episode, I reflect on the evolution of the Maverick Paradox Podcast, what has changed since episode 1, and whether you know your Maverick Impact, and the impact of that knowing. This is an interesting look at the Maverick Paradox Podcast and your Maverick Impact. Listen up to the rest of my musings. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke Maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox Podcast, where we explore what it is to be a Maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the Maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. Today we depart from our usual conversation with format to allow me to just talk to you. So wow, it's the 100th episode and I can't believe I've reached this point. So much has changed for me and the Maverick Paradox since I started this podcast. My conversation with Curtis Tappenden was the first podcast published and remains the most downloaded. This episode, where we discuss Maverick attributes, is still being downloaded, all without any promotion. Well done, Curtis. Originally, I started the podcast because I wanted to have great conversations with other Mavericks, other willfully independent people. An exploration on how they thought and how they use their ability was my first endeavour. Over time, the podcast started to become popular, and I began to look to see how Maverick leadership was demonstrated by other people in different fields. This has led me to an eclectic set of conversations that have ranged from looking at the Maverick mindset and attributes, leadership, marketing, and even intelligent disobedience. All very fascinating, all very different conversations. At the beginning of this year, 2020, the popular Maverick Paradox magazine, which can be found at themaverickparadox.com, was launched. This online magazine is for the pathologically curious. It's full of diverse business thinking from a Maverick perspective. If you would like to become a guest writer for the magazine, go to the magazine at themaverickparadox.com and head to the Write For Us section on the menu for information on how to get involved. Indeed, if you would like to be a guest on this podcast, write to contact@maverickparadox.com with your pitch and we'll see what we can do. So, what else can I tell you? One thing I've never done during the last 99 episodes is to tell you what I actually do for a living. So whilst I'm a consultant, author, speaker, trainer, mentor and coach, breathe, I have this podcast and the Maverick Paradox magazine. These elements are just point to functional headings. Let me tell you what I really do. I equip aspiring Maverick leaders to change the way we work through leadership and influence, because when they utilise their ability to strategise, innovate and execute, we can all have better outcomes. And this remains true whether you run your own business or work within someone else's. I love this, and my core values of integrity, empathy, passion, fun and inspiration are continually activated with the people I work with and the companies I enjoy spending time with. I have my signature program called the Maverick Accelerator, Strategy to Execution, which has many modules for the individual, the business owner, or a larger business. All of my modules are tailored for the client, and with large organisations, all their programs are bespoke. No matter what I'm doing, it's going to be fun and inspirational and have strategy, innovation and execution at its core. How do you demonstrate your maverick thinking? Do tell me in the comments. Okay, enough about me. I want to ask you a question. Do you know your Maverick Impact? Maverick leadership is an everyday aspiration. It is a leadership philosophy, and as such, anyone can pursue it. Maverick-driven leadership is my leadership methodology that looks at who you are and what you do. It has 6 components that work concurrently and enables the Maverick leader to have substantial influence and enables the Maverick leader to have substantial influential impact on their organisation and the people within it. The core elements of Maverick-driven leadership are determination, reputation, influence, versatility, execution, and narration, oscillating around the reputation. So whether you wish to pursue Maverick leadership or the Maverick-driven leadership methodology, maximising your leadership impact is something that all leaders are expected to do. So what is the Maverick Impact? Well, the Maverick Impact is the fusion of Maverick Drive, which is the ability to strategize, innovate and execute, with Maverick Behavior. So that's Maverick thinking, doing and being, with the ability to provide a game-changing impact. And that's the utilization of the strategist, game changer, implementer, polisher and strategist proclivities. Proclivities are things that you would naturally do and where you get your energy from. The Maverick Impact reduces capability gaps in the leader and the organisation. So by utilising it, true transformational leadership and therefore change is possible. So let me tell you a bit more about Maverick Drive. Well, Maverick-driven leaders are those that follow the Maverick-driven leadership methodology, who naturally use their Maverick Drive to come up with novel solutions that fulfill the strategy and are executed well. So the ability to utilise your Maverick Drive is something that can be learnt. However, so innate ability is not necessary. And we at the Maverick Paradox are finding several clients use this Maverick Drive, this ability to strategise, innovate and execute as a foundational component to the success of their organisation. So why is it important to understand and execute Maverick Drive within the organisation? We have found, and our clients have confirmed, that the biggest leadership failing right now is the inability to balance the needs of all your stakeholders with the objectives of the organisation. So millennials, and that's those aged between 23 and 39, already make up the largest number of workers in the workplace, with Generation Z, aged between 10 and 22, all set to continue this trend of younger, more tech-savvy, ethically minded individuals. And what organisations are seeing right now are individuals in leadership positions or with leadership responsibilities struggling to utilise strategic thinking in the deliberations. I have defined strategic thinking as considering the whole picture the whole of the time. So with flatter organisations and a lifetime of education prioritising group work and consensus with a get-along leadership, the ability to think for and by yourself at a long-term issue is becoming difficult for this cohort of people. This is often due to the prevalence of short-termism and the simple fact of not seeing strategic thinking demonstrated or practiced often enough. Therefore, small S strategy is substituted instead. Rather than considering the bigger picture, concentration becomes focused on the strategy of a singular idea and how this can be implemented. This is a problem, especially as strategic planning is often used as a substitute for strategic thinking, therefore missing the opportunity for thinking around the bigger problem. One of the clients' most asked for components of our Maverick leadership programs is strategic thinking. And following strategic thinking, there is creative thinking, which encompasses the ability to innovate. The innovation capability is the key factor for the future competitiveness of any company. To implement disruptive innovation, first the employees need to be in the right environment and have the right mindset. Innovation can be seen as imagining a novel solution to an existing or potential problem. And a frequent problem with organisations is the inability to execute, which is a critical skill both for the individual and the company. There is more, however, to this skill. It is important to be able to execute well. It is essential that you execute on the ideas and objectives that will fulfil the right overall strategy. Maverick Drive enables the individual, the leader, and the organisation to strategise, innovate, and execute, thereby increasing individual and organisational effectiveness, competitive advantage, and alignment of individual and organisational capability. So do you know your Maverick Impact? I don't really want to spend much time, or any time in fact, really on this podcast discussing Maverick Behavior. This is because I spend a lot of time discussing this in my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. So I'm not going to talk about the components of Maverick Behavior. I think it is sufficient, though, to remark that Maverick thinking occurs in the intersection of the Maverick Drive activities of strategizing and innovation. Maverick leaders tend to be emergent thinkers and fluid reasoners, as well as employing more well-known thinking techniques such as convergent, divergent, critical, and creative thinking. Maverick thinking, similar to strategic thinking, allows the individual and the organisation to start with the big picture and then narrow down to a granular picture, thus ensuring that all angles are covered. I have been defining Mavericks as willfully independent since 2005 and recognise that Maverick being occurs at the Maverick Drive intersection of innovation and execution. Maverick being looks at emulating how socialised Mavericks see the world, their mindset and personality. They are execution and output driven and seek to find the novel, unexpected but effective solution. Fortunately, anyone can become a Maverick leader and learn to see the innovation in the execution of task and strategy. So finally, Maverick Doing is how the strategy is executed. In this area, both the big S and small s strategy is examined and executed. It is in this sphere that the final decision on how the strategy is to be executed is decided. The Maverick leader ensures that their Maverick behavior enables their Maverick drive to become more effective. The final piece of the Maverick Impact puzzle is how the game-changing impact proclivities, or you could say the GC index profile, are activated during a Maverick leader's day-to-day activities. This is how the GC index describes their game-changing impact. The GC Index is a radical rethink of how organisations identify and nurture key talent, identifying how people at all levels in organisations make their best impact. Each proclivity thinks and reacts in a different way. There are 5 proclivities: the game changer, the strategist, the implementer, the polisher, the playmaker. Let's look at the kind of statements and questions that each proclivity asks. Okay, let's start with the game changer. They may ask, or they may say, I can see a different way of doing this. Or let's just do it in a new way. The strategist will ask, why are we doing this? What's the purpose? And how does this fit in with the strategy? Your implementer proclivity would ask, what's the outcome? What do we need to achieve and by when? Your polisher will be asking, I think that we can improve on this, or we're letting ourselves down. And the playmaker would say, who's doing what? Or how is everybody making an impact? You could probably sum up the 5 game-changing impact proclivities as this. The game changer, they see possibilities. The strategist sees patterns. The implementer sees practicalities. The polisher sees potential. And the playmaker, well, they see the people. So it is usual to have 2 or 3 top proclivities that you would naturally operate from. And at the Maverick Paradox, we help you to balance those game-changing impacts so that you can achieve your best outcomes. So again, do you know your Maverick Impact? Because the Maverick Impact holds the balance between your Maverick drive, Maverick behavior, and your game-changing impact. It is important to know what your Maverick Impact is, because when activated, there is concurrent alignment and analysis of the problem or challenge before you. And in the analysis stage, potential issues of implementation, execution, and people are ironed out and a full review conducted, all before actual implementation of an idea. This has the advantage of ensuring that an idea is well tested before it's ready for execution. The Maverick Impact is more than a tool for thinking through problems. It is at the heart of your ability to influence and achieve your leadership objectives. It is also in constant flux as the Maverick drive, behavior, and game-changing impact works with each other concurrently in an attempt to deliver the best outcomes. So knowing and understanding and utilising your Maverick Impact will accelerate your leadership impact and improve the innovation capability of the entire organisation. If you would like more information on the Maverick Impact, then please read the article at the Maverick Paradox magazine. So you'll need to go to themaverickparadox.com and enter Maverick Impact in the search bar. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox Podcast. I hope you have enjoyed this Alone with Judith episode. It's been such a long time since we've had one. The next time you'll hear from me, I will be with an interesting guest ready to explore the mysteries of Maverick leadership. If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. And finally, if you would like to work with us or just interested in finding out more about the Maverick at work, check out our website maverickparadox.co.uk.